Every time there's a mass shooting, we hear the usual suspects start their rally cries for tighter gun control. But would tighter gun control really prevent more mass shootings? Hi folks, Van Prepper here, and as I asked in the lead into this video, would stricter gun control really prevent more gun violence, prevent more mass shootings, or is that just something that the gun grabbers say to try and get us to willingly give up our firearms? Well, let's look, okay? I've got a survey in front of me from police1.com. They surveyed over 15,000 current and former police officers to get their perspective on gun control and their ideas on different forms of gun control, and ask if these police officers thought that they would see a reduction as a result of these measures being put into place in gun crime. Let's find out what they had to say. Here are some of the questions they asked. What effect do you think a federal ban on the manufacture of some semi-automatic rifles, termed by some as assault weapons, would have on reducing violent crime? 71% indicated none. None whatsoever. Banning any kind of firearms, these semi-automatic assault weapons, banning them would have no effect whatsoever on violent crime. That's what the police say. And more interestingly, 20.5% say it would have a negative effect, meaning that violent crime would actually increase if these guns were banned for law-abiding citizens. So you put those two numbers together, and you've got 91.5% of the responding former and current police officers polled in this survey said that banning assault weapons would actually do nothing or increase violent crime. Do you think a federal ban on the manufacture and sale of ammunition magazines that hold more than 10 rounds would reduce violent crime? An overwhelming 95.7% answered no. And yet, what are the first two things that every gun grabber wants to go after? What did they do here in New York? High-capacity magazines and assault weapons. And we just saw that over 90% of respondents in both of these questions of current and former law enforcement said that this is not going to reduce violent crime whatsoever. Do you think that federal law prohibiting private non-dealer transfers of firearms between individuals would reduce violent crime? That's the supposed gun show loophole, which doesn't actually exist, and it certainly doesn't account for 40% of firearm sales, which is what the number that the liberals and the gun grabbers keep throwing out there. Doesn't exist, folks. It's a lie. Well, what did the law enforcement community think about this question? Would reducing that gun show loophole reduce violent crime? Let's check. 79.9% answered no. 79.7% answered no. This is not going to stop violent crime. This is not how criminals get their guns. And passing this law, criminals are still going to go through illegal means, illegal avenues to get their firearms. Passing this law just means I can't sell a firearm of mine to a friend of mine who I know, who I trust, who I know to be a solid person. This is a stupid idea, as most gun-grabbing ideas are. Here's an interesting one. Passing something that doesn't affect law-abiding citizens at all. Geez, there's a novel idea. Do you think increasing the severity of punishments for gun trafficking, particularly by unlisted dealers or straw purchasers who buy firearms for persons ineligible to own them, would reduce instances of gun crime? A majority, 58.8%, said yes. Oh my goodness, you mean passing a law that doesn't affect law-abiding citizens could actually reduce gun crime? Geez, there's a novel idea. Do you believe that the use of a firearm while perpetrating a crime should result in a stiff mandatory sentence with no plea bargaining? 91.4% said yes. Here's an idea. Let's punish the people who commit the crimes with guns instead of punishing the people that aren't committing the crimes with guns. If you were a sheriff or chief, how would you respond to more restrictive gun laws? 44.9% answered not enforce them and join in the vocal public opposition of these laws. 17.2% answered not enforce quietly and lead agency in opposite direction, and 10% answered unsure. Less than 5% indicated that they would enforce the new law. The problem is that 5% can do a lot of damage. Come on, gun grabbers, stop passing laws that your own law enforcement don't want to enforce. Here's an excellent one. Do you support the concealed carry of firearms by civilians who have not been convicted of a felony and have not been deemed psychologically or medically incapable? Yes, without question and without further restrictions, 91.3%. That means the overwhelming majority of law enforcement officers support concealed carry for private citizens. You know, gun grabbers act like this is the problem. These are the people that are committing crimes. But you know what? I spent a long time and went through a lot of hoops to get my concealed carry permit, which I shouldn't even need because it is a constitutional right. And I'm not a danger to anybody. But somebody who doesn't go through all that procedure, doesn't go all through that background check, doesn't even go through the background check because they bought their gun on the back of a van, is not going to start to stick it in their pants to conceal their gun and go, oh, wait, I don't have a concealed carry license. I guess I can't do it. Passing laws, again, that only affect the law-abiding is ridiculous, and it doesn't stop gun crime or curb gun crime whatsoever, because criminals, by their very nature, don't obey the law. On a scale of 1 to 5, 1 being the lowest and 5 being the highest, how important do you think legally armed citizens are to reducing crime rates overall? Number 1 only got 4.7%, number 2, 4.9%, number 3, 14%, and the top 2 slots, number 4 and 5, indicating that law enforcement people polled believe that armed citizens, legally armed citizens, have a positive effect on reducing gun crime, is a total of 75, a little over 75, almost 76%. Come on, folks. You know, the gun grabbers continue to push this legislation, but just like in the case of the New York SAFE Act where I live, they don't consult the people that are charged with enforcing these laws because they are pushing an agenda. They are not pushing it based on logical, intelligent, wise ideas at reducing gun crime. They're worried about putting on a show for their constituents who are terrified of gun crimes. They're all a bunch of homophobes. They're worried about putting on a show for them to make them feel better about themselves than they are about doing anything that actually has an effect on reducing violent crime. Thank you very much for watching. If you like this video, click that subscribe button up there. I'm Van Prepper. You can also find me on Facebook, Twitter, Pinterest, Instagram, Tumblr, and of course right here on YouTube if you want to check out my channel. Remember, in any survival situation, you don't just want to survive, you want to thrive. Happy shooting, everybody.